It's the Blue Monday. We are back. Everton are signing players, not selling players. It's all looking good. The sun's shining as well. It's a beautiful day here on Merseyside. And joining me to talk all things toffees as ever on a Monday are Les Roberts. Les, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Enjoying the sun. Burnt myself a little bit at the weekend, but nothing I've not done before. So
I'm enjoying that kit. I've not seen that for ages. So just for
the
anyone
belter, isn't it?
who's listening to this, it's like is that turquoise, would you say? It's
Seafoam green, it was called, wasn't it?
foam green. The
Like a
only
mint.
time I remember us wearing it is at Brighton away in a 0-0. But it's
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
yeah. I'm
What
just
else
I'm just
remember
like
that?
mourning the passing of Hummel over to Castor. So
Yeah, and also joining us is Dave Downey. Do you remember that kit being worn at any other point, Dave, or no?
And I remember the kit and that name as well. It's just foam stuck in my mind. But no, I don't remember us wearing it at all. I'd love to see the history of kits that we've only ever worn like once or twice. That'd be a decent thing to look at. Les, that's something right up your street, isn't it?
I
Going
wouldn't
back,
mind looking into that. Yeah, that
yeah.
didn't we wear a kit once down at Brighton as well? That purple and navy one. Didn't we only wear that at Brighton? I think Rooney scored. It was 1-1.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, I went to that game. Yeah, it was.
Was that
Yeah,
not? Did
I
we not
think.
use that on City away as well when Rooney scored?
Oh, we did. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But the one Les has got on there is it was Drew Nil at Brighton. I think Nathan Broadhead came on at the end and made his
Oh,
debut for us.
you're just playing games with us now, mate. That's far
Rodriguez,
too
Rodriguez
aggressive.
played as well, so James has worn that kit. So
You're just
there you
showing
It
off.
go.
was that. It was that season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
COVID season.
Where we
Yeah,
had the three first Hummel kits.
it
Very
was an
good.
awful game, like, but there we go. Remember the
When's the new
kit.
one out? When's Castore coming?
They're here, aren't they?
Is it out
Soon.
though?
Yeah,
Is it
they're
out?
here, and they're paying us a wedge, aren't they? By all accounts, yeah, three times
Yeah.
as much as Hummel.
Les, are you gonna
Incredible.
keep your kit there and put Castore over that humble sign?
Absolutely no chance.
Are we saying Castore, by the way, or Castor?
I think it's Castor, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a little accent on the e. It was going to be Castore.
Yeah.
From the
Plus,
Wirral, it's from the
It's got to be
Wirral as well.
Castore.
So come
it's
on,
not very well having an accent like
no,
that, is it?
I was gonna
no.
say it's got to be Castore if you're the Scouser, unlike you two.
There we go. Well, it's a Wirral company, Dave. So gradually taking over. I'm sure Dan Freakin's got some peninsular roots as well. I'm sure. But yeah, we're going to shell the takeover stuff for a bit because we've actually got football things to talk about, which is nice. In the middle of the summer, um, just well, about a couple of hours before we started recording this, um, got the news through that Jack Harrison, as everyone expected, has signed on a year-long deal again. The club put a lovely video out of him talking about the deal on his holidays. Throwback to Ronald Koeman when we announced him while he was on holiday. I thought, but I know we've joked and like had a bit of back and forth on this, haven't we, lads? After our chat on the show a couple of weeks ago, I'm happy with it. I think it makes loads of sense. He did me head in so much last season, but I think in the cold light today, looking back, I think he was fine for us. And in a summer where we're going to potentially struggle to spend money, fine is fine. Dave, I know you're not totally enamored with him as a footballer, but can you see the reasoning behind it at least?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I say a lot in jest about him, really, because similar to you, or probably a
Don't
little
be
bit.
backing down now. He's back again.
No, I'd be really happy if he wasn't in our first 11. I have to say that. I think when people, he's the exact type of player you need in our situation. Don't get me wrong. Somebody who's going to get game time, somebody you're going to need to get him in on off the bench or get him to start games when we've got injured players. But I don't want him to be in our first 11. But given the situation we're in, he's going to have to be. If we don't go through the rest of the summer and get to the end of August and we've not signed anybody who can play on either flank, then he's gonna get game time. But I think what you two guys have said in our WhatsApp group and stuff is it's a lot more sensible than what I've said jokingly, that Les wants to spend every penny that we've got on him coming back, and
Top target, mate.
I will
Top
never
sort of
let that
target.
go. I will never let that go. I'll let it go if he actually scores some
I'll
goals.
tell you what, just quickly, can I just put the context of that? What I actually said was, if we spent, say, 8 million on him, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It'd be all right. That's what I said.
That's
And
still
then
bad.
suddenly you're saying, Les
Look
wants
what
to
8
spend
million
20
gets you
million on
now.
Jack Harrison.
You only get a Lewis Dobbin now for 8 million as well. So that in the current
Exactly.
market, that'd be a great deal.
But I'd rather have Lewis Dobbin playing instead of him.
I
Anyway,
don't know. Maybe Jack Harrison's had his difficult bedding in season and he's just going to tear it up next year. I think as you say, I think it makes a lot of sense. He's very, very frustrating at times last season, but it does make sense to bring him into the squad because he's just alone, and he will play the majority of the season under normal circumstances. He's not particularly injury prone, didn't miss much last season, so yeah, I think where we are, and it's good that we're getting it done early and we're not messing about until mid-late August to sort these things out. And that's the good thing from me. I know you've got to move on to Calvert-Lewin, but I think even just the fact that he's linked with a move away is a positive thing in a way because it's showing that the club's actually in order. It's unusual for the club to do that at the best of times, especially when there's an international tournament on, because everyone normally sort of keeps the cards close to the chest. But I think it's great that this is happening now, sort of in June, basically.
I think just thinking about Harrison and like what could potentially make him a bit better next year. Like that, I think you're right, Les. It's obvious about players coming in early. We'll naturally get a full preseason. We'll get to know the teammates. We'll get to know the manager. And obviously he kind of knows that already, doesn't he? But I suppose he came in quite late, didn't he, last year? Because he signed late and he was injured when he signed anyway, wasn't he? Because I think that was one of the reasons why I think a lot of people were saying that Everton left it late because they didn't want to pay his wages for a spell when he might be sat on the sideline injured. And I think he probably started off all right, didn't he? But as the season went on, he looked a little bit fatigued. So I think that can kind of maybe be the degree of separation between last season's Harrison and potentially this one, who might be a bit better, that he gets a full summer. He is ready to go on the first day of the season. He knows everything about the football club, about the manager, about his teammates already. Like that feels like it could be the thing that makes him go up another little level again next year. And yeah, I think he's one of those players that when you're in the moment and in the ground and you're watching him and he's there and he's doing those silly things, he does really wind you up. But I think if you sort of look back at his whole season, and the numbers, obviously, in terms of goals and assists, aren't great, but I think he did an all right job for us for a lot of those games. I think you've got to look at the fact as well that he played so much football when he came straight back into the side, because we have got no other wingers in the squad apart from him and McNeil. So he ran himself into the ground. Hopefully we can get a few more bodies in those positions, like you said, Dave, and he can sort of be rotated in and out, which might help him and might help the squad. But I think it's a loan deal. I think it makes loads of sense. But we'll move on to talk about Calvert-Lewin anyway, because I think that's a more interesting situation. That has kind of developed earlier on today. Obviously, over the weekend, there were talks about, or reports about Newcastle step up their interest for him. It seemed like it was going towards that way, but been widely reported today that Newcastle have stopped their interest for now and have pulled out any kind of deal. That's not to say that Calvert-Lewin's definitely staying or he's going to sign the new contract Everton have offered to him by any means. I don't think the reports have indicated that. But what have you made of that, Dave? Because it did sort of seem to be trending in one way, then up towards the northeast over the last few days. But Newcastle, maybe like Manchester United with Branthwaite, have bought at Everton's valuation of him a little bit, and Dom's in an interesting situation now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the stories that's going to linger for a long time. It's going to be really annoying, isn't it? We're going through the summer. Whether does he stay, does he go? I mean, initially I thought that he had to go, given the financial situation we've got. But even that's gone up in the air, given the potential new ownership. If they come in, I mean, we've heard recently. I think it's like recent last couple of hours. It could well be done within weeks rather than months. If that's the case, then we might have some. Regardless of PSR and all that sort of thing, we might actually have some money to spend in the transfer market. I think it's difficult. It's difficult to want him to stay when he goes away for free. And the reason I say that is because we don't have anybody else there. And people will say, oh, Shemiti looked half decent when he played. I think that's a stat, by the way. He played 20 games. I think he must have started like one or two of them. But anyway, him, Beto, you can't trust things going on that. So I completely get it when people say he needs to stay, at whatever cost. But if I had faith in the club, if I had faith in Thelwell to go and get as a striker who has done what he's done, which many people would say isn't a great amount given his injuries, given his lack of form when he come back to us last season. Then if there's a sense of faith towards those people, then I'd happily let them go for whatever. I mean, there's been some silly money put around there that he'd be going for. I mean, I don't know.
I think Everton wanted 37 million for him. I think it was in Paul Joyce's reports today or yesterday.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Regardless of the fact it's Newcastle who've got, limitless amounts of money, that's certainly not going to happen for the fella who's got, at the age of 27, not the best striker in the Premier League. He's not going to go there for 37 million. Like I say, the amount of money that Newcastle have got, they're not going to be that silly. But yeah, I mean, you have to say it's essential that he stays, really, and our hands are behind our backs, really, with all of this, aren't they? I mean, if you put the question to use, if he left and you couldn't sign another striker, what sort of way do you think we are? And I think we'd absolutely be up shit creek, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it would cause a massive problem. I don't think it would come to that though. I think we would sign another striker, and as you say, if you look at his goal return, I do think he's a very good player, by the way. But I think if you look at his goal return, it's not going to be that hard to find a striker who can score the same amount of goals as him, or you wouldn't think so.
But anyway, then, sorry to interrupt, just to continue that question, what you just said there, do you trust Everton to go out and get a replacement who's going to be as good
God, no.
Exactly.
No, well, there is that. But
yeah.
I think for me, it's up to him. I think if he doesn't sign a new deal, the club's going to have to sell him. I'm not sure he's worth that much to us, whereby you hang on for another year. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if his goal return is worth that much to us. I mean, it could, because it could be the difference between staying up and going down his goals, which it has been essentially in the past. But I don't know. I think if he's not going to sign, I think we need to move on. He's been at the club nearly 10 years now. I'm looking at his stats. His best goal return was obviously under Ancelotti when he got 16 in 33. But he's basically, apart from that season and the one before, he's never scored more than 7 goals, and that was last season. So he's not the most prolific. He has had a thankless task because he's largely been up front on his own, and during that time, he's had he's played in some sort of shocking formations and under some shocking managers, hasn't he? Where he's chased his own flick-ons and things like that, and it's not good for a striker to work in those conditions, so isolated on your own up front. I do think he is a good player. Obviously, trouble with injuries, as everyone knows, but I just think if he doesn't sign a deal, the club has just got to be ruthless and get money for him. That's my position on it.
We're not in a strong position with him, are we? Really, in that regard, no. And it's tough, isn't it? Because you're right. Because I think we sit here and say, we all agree he doesn't want to sign a new deal. The ideal situation would be to sell him now, and get what we can for him. But how do you push him to other clubs in that situation then and get, I know you're saying, David, I think you're going to get 37 million for him, but how can you try and flog him and get the money that he is worth all of a sudden? By doing that, in essence, you are losing value on the player, aren't you? And everyone knows he's not signed his contract as well, so that's difficult. But I think I would quite like him to stay. I think 35 million-ish for him now would be, I think, a really good amount of money. I think, on the last day of last season, we were sort of debating stuff around his future and how much he would be worth. And I think the number we all sort of settled on was about 20, because there's so much to factor in with Dom, on his contract, on his droughts he's had, his injury record he's had, the good moments he's had. He finished the season really well, didn't he, in the end? So I think it's really difficult to put a value on him, but I wouldn't have gone as high as 35. But I don't think that there are many players out there who are suited to play in the way Dyche wants to play, as him. And I think you can look at the goal record and stuff like that. But I think for someone who's so strong in the air, good with his back to goal, can run the channels, all those sorts of things that the centre forwards don't really get judged on. He's really good at a lot of those things. And I think if you stuck someone like Beto up there, or Chimiti up there, or Mope, God forbid, up there, I think you'd get such a drop off, and it's just the little things like being able. I think the derby was a perfect example of it, wasn't it? Like, I think if you looked at Calvert-Lewin's highlights, individual highlights from that game, like, a lot of it would just be challenging for headers and not really winning them and making them awkward for Van Dijk and Canate, or winning free kicks that seem like very small things in the moment. But I think you build it up. And when you are a team that don't have much of the ball and you rely on set pieces, and you need that break from pressure to get out. And and take 30 seconds, a minute where you haven't got your back to goal. Like a play like that, that's so valuable because I mean, you can do it in two ways, can't you? You can get out of when you're under pressure like that, you can get out of it in two ways. One of them is you've got a big centre forward who gets it down, brings people into play, or wins free kicks, or you get blistering pace out wide or through the middle, and you knock it over the top, and you're chasing to the corner, and everyone squeezes it up. We have not got the latter, have we? We have not got blistering pace in our team. So I'm sort of looking at it thinking, if we haven't got Calvert-Lewin, like what's our way out of those situations? How do Everton, release themselves from being penned in by a team with the ball? And I think Calvert-Lewin is really important to that. And it's not really someone you can quantify or get with stats,
Yeah.
but I don't think there are a lot of players who would be able to do that role as well as him. Like the goal scoring at times is obviously an issue, and that run he was on last year was really worrying. But I think he does bring you a lot more, certainly when you're playing the style of football that we play.
I think it's
sorry, let's
go. Go on, Dave. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think that's an excellent point that you've made there, given how valuable he is to us. The other fact that, as you were saying, this sort of thing was sort of crossed my mind, and it was underlying thing, which is that, have we got a manager there that's able? And I'm trying not to slate Dice here, but it sounds like I am, or maybe I am slating him. But what's he got in his credentials to go and change that squad, that forward line with just runs on his own? Firstly, what's he got at his disposal to be able to change things up? But also, he's not a manager that's renowned for doing exactly what you said there, having a couple of whippets there, crossing balls in and things like that. He's not renowned for that. Add to the fact you said there, I can't see any top quality 6'4" lads who would be right up Sean Dyche's street to go and put in there. I'm not sure that you can go and get Sam Vokes. I think he's retired. I don't think those players are there. Veghorst, do they have maybe? I'm just I struggle to see what we go and do, to be honest with you. I mean, I was talking a lot to people saying, first thing you do, go and look in the Championship, go and have a look what's there and about. That's why we got Jack Harrison. Then he's from the Championship. That is where we're looking at. But this is why, and I think it indicates it straight at the front of all the things that are up in the air for us this summer. And I wish I had faith to put in not only Dice to sort things out on the pitch if we didn't have Calvert-Lewin, but also we haven't got a great record until, well, certainly it's yet to be seen, hasn't it? The jury's out on him. But is that where we're at right now? Putting our faith in somebody we haven't seen the real evidence of, in bringing in what we need. That's where I have a position where I'm quite, I don't know, I'm quite nervous about that, to be honest. So for that reason, like you say, Matt, I think, the sort of praise we've given him and what his ability actually is, that's been so important to us, regardless of the lack of goals he scored. And Les said that term there, which I think is perfectly identifies what he's like. And it's a thankless task. And I think that's what's going to be when you sign anybody if you're Sean Dyche, that's going to be along the conversation you're going to be having, whether you want to come to Everton or not.
Yeah, I think for me as well, he's in a team where he's sort of, as you said, Matt, everyone picked up on the goal record, and basically as a striker, that's essentially what you generally judged on. But it's been a team for years that hasn't had a lot of goals in it. So I know he missed a lot of chances last year, and that kind of stood out, that he was getting good chances and not putting them away. But you look around the whole team, and there's not many goals in there. So you can't really just level at the striker, I don't think, because more players should be weighing in with goals. The fullbacks should be scoring more goals. They don't really score any. The midfield, you get very few goals from them as well. Jack Harrison barely scored last season. I think Dwight McNeil, what did he get, 6-7 again?
So no, he got 2. I think he only got 2 last year.
He got 2?
Yeah. No, 3. Got 3. Got 2 against Forest and 1 against Newcastle. Yeah.
Yeah, so you see, it's like, it's a thing around the team, and that's something the manager needs to sort out as much as, the striker, because especially with Calvert-Lewin, who's had his injury problems, hopefully he's over them now, because he did have a pretty strong season appearance-wise last year. The goals, I don't want to use this phrase, but the goals need to be spread around a bit. And they do. They do. That's the thing for a manager.
It is true.
You've got to look at how you can get more goals out of your team, not just your centre forward. And I think one thing we did see for sure, as we've seen, trying to use Neil Maupay in that position does not work. So we just simply cannot go back to that because it just doesn't work. So I think I'm with you, Dave. it's a worry that we might not be able to get the right type of player. And now when Beto first came in, we thought he's a similar profile to Calvert-Lewin. He's the big man up front. He'll be able to do a similar job. Might not be as good, but I think I haven't seen him last season. Again, it could be just a first season settling in. He might be better next season, but he doesn't look like the sort of player who's going to do stuff Calvert-Lewin does. He looks too easy. He looks too willing to go down instead of trying to get past someone and things like that. He's not the same sort of player. He's just big. So I think if he does go, we definitely need a replacement. But yeah, it's an iffy one, isn't it?
Well, maybe that was the plan last summer in terms of getting Beto and Chimiti, where we'd be in this situation now. And in an ideal world, you'd go, well, Dom's going to go for whatever amount of money. The next cab off the rank is Beto, who's had a season. And, obviously this didn't happen, but he's looked all right in the Premier League. Maybe he can be our first choice starter next season. And then Chimiti steps up to be the backup then. And that's good in some sense. Like, it's good succession planning, and you're getting ahead and you're thinking about what your squad's going to look like next year. But obviously for that to work, you need Beto to look good and in the Premier League and be more effective. You need Chimiti to maybe have got a few more minutes. And I think you're both right. I don't think you can ignore Felwell's record, even when it comes to signing forwards. You look at Beto. I mean, I don't know if we're writing him off too soon or not, but he's not looked great, has he? Let's be honest. Chimiti, still early days on him, to be fair, but Mope, just weird fit. And even like Danjuma on loan, he scored one. Did he score a Premier League goal for? He scored one Premier League goal for us last season. Beto scored.
Sheffield, wasn't it?
Yeah, Beto scored. Was it 2 in the league or 3? Mope scored 1. Chimiti's not scored yet. To spend in the region of £60 million on those 3 permanent signings, and then whatever it would have cost to loan Danjuma, that is a 1 or 2 out of 10, isn't it, in terms of bringing in strikers? So that it does seem to be a blind spot. But like, I think I've said this before, I think signing strikers is really hard as well. Like, if I get every team in the country would go, we just need that player who's going to score us 15 goals a season. Like, that player probably costs about 70-80 million pounds now to get them through the door. So it is hard, and I think with all those factors in mind, just going back to the original question, I think that's why I'll be happy for Calvert-Lewin to stay and sign a new contract instead of taking that 30 odd million for him, because you kind of know what you're going to get. His injury problem seems to be behind him. He suits the way we play. And I just quite like him as well. He's given us, in a really bad few years, like, he's gave us the goal at Palace. He scored the winner in the derby. He's the one who sort of stood up when things have really got shit at times, despite the reputation he's got. So I'd be happy for him to stay a little bit longer. Just quickly, lads, I've put it in the chat there. So it's literally broke as we've just been recording. But Fabrizio Romano on Twitter saying that we're in the final stages of signing Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille. He was at Sheffield United the season before last, did all right, went to Marseille last year, did not do well. I think he scored 3 and 30 in the league. And obviously this has just happened as we've been recording, so I don't know how much you know about him, but Dave, shaking your head, Les, have you seen? I think I remember him looking quite decent for Sheffield United. I think he scored a few goals in the Championship when they went down there. Senegalese international. But I think he's more of a split striker than an out-and-out number 9. He might replace Dom.
Yeah, I generally don't know anything about a player until they sign for Everton and I see them. But I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and it's quite the journey he's had there. So he's born in Rouen in France, went Sheffield United, Hyde United, Marseille. That's quite the career arc, that, isn't it?
Hyde United?
He was on loan at Hyde United in 2020, scored 1 in 6 games.
Wow, that's some guy.
But yeah, again, I don't know anything about him, but it's just good that once again, if this is true and we do end up signing him, that we've got another player in before the end of June. I don't think you can't underestimate how important that's going to be to the squad this season. I've said on other podcasts we've done, I actually think there's a good chance we might struggle to replicate last season, this coming season. We might not have a season essentially as good as the one we had, because take out the point deductions, and it was a decent season all around. We would have finished 11th, which I think we'd have all taken at the start. I think it's going to be quite tricky to do that again, with so many potential players going out. So we've got to get these players in early. So yeah, I'd be happy with that. How old is he? What?
24.
24. Yeah, exactly. He looks a decent profile player, doesn't he? To what we need as well. And it sort of suggests maybe Abdoulaye Doucouré may not be featuring in that position moving forward, which again, I'd not be too bothered if he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he's straight onto YouTube as soon as we finish this podcast, isn't he, to see what he's like.
Well, I know Mick Greenall's a fan, so,
Oh, mate, Mick Greenall knows every single player.
Yeah,
It's like
I'm
he
happy
is.
to bow to his knowledge on this lad, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is football manager. I'd be surprised if you find out one day that he actually makes it himself. But yeah, I think we are in a position, like you say there, Les, I do agree, that getting players in is the priority, dare to say it, to what they're actually, how good they are to a certain extent. Obviously, you don't want to be signing another version of Mopé or another version of Beto, bless him. You actually want to go there and sign somebody who you've done the proper, work for them. You've done the research. You've been able to look at these players beforehand that they don't come in.
Well, just on that, Dave. Sorry,
Yeah.
like we've been linked with this lad for about 3 years now, so it does feel like one he wanted to get for a while. I think he went to Marseille for something like 20 million last summer, which was obviously out of our price range. So maybe him going there, not particularly settling in. They've tried to revisit it, but it is someone that Farewell might have liked for a while. But that's a good thing or not, given his record, I don't know. But he's clearly a historical target.
Is there any sort of financial implication on this?
It's not been reported yet, no.
I mean, that seems to me, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name again, the kid we just got there from Villa.
Iliman.
Yeah, and really impressive that you said that. In comparison to Dobbin going the other way, there's been a lot of reports on this is how a lot of clubs are going to try and avoid the PSR situation. It seems actually really intelligent that we've gone and done that, really, because as much as I laughed and joked that this lad probably doesn't get near the first team until he's about 25, given the way Sean Dyche is with young players, to do that, and it takes a few million off what we need to get in for PSR, what we are 6 days away when we need to have addressed that and sorted it out. Sadly, the new owners can't have any effect on that, can they? I'd be surprised if this is, I mean, where are we getting him from? Marseille.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're getting him from Marseille. Clearly, that's nothing to do with PSR if you don't get a player in from that. So I'm really interested to see if we are paying for this lad, and also where that comes from and how it works. Look, there's loads of financial implications in there with all of this sort of thing, but yeah, I mean, getting somebody in, he seems to be an attacking profile as well, which we need. Some of the it was part of the deep discussions we had last season about Doucouré, and he didn't look like he anywhere near. He wasn't even a shadow of what he used to be at Everton. There's an issue there that needs to be addressed. So this lad looks like he's in a similar position there. That might well be Thelwell thinking behind this. The other aspect that I want to throw in there is, and you probably know much better than me, given what you do, Matt, with the sort of relationship that you sort of feel towards Dyche and Thelwell have with each other. In regards to, do you think it's a case of Dyche knocking on his door and saying, "Look, I want this"?
No, I don't think so.
Exactly. Do you think it's Thelwell? Yeah, mate. Here's all we can get. Here's all we can afford.
I think it'll be quite collaborative at this point. I imagine. Like,
I hope so. Yeah.
Dyche doesn't feel like, again, this is like based on nothing but like intuition and there's no inside info here. But like, it just feels like Dyche doesn't feel like the sort of fella who'd want nothing to do with transfers. You'd feel like he'd want a say in that. So I feel like it's probably a collaborative thing, which obviously hasn't been ideal for us in the past. Certainly when it's the owner trying to collaborate and sign players for us as opposed to the manager. But yeah, like this one feels like, in the past with managers and directors of football, we've been like, that's a Brand sign, and that's a Koeman sign, and that's a whoever sign. Like this one feels like it's one that Kevin Farewell's has had earmarked for a while, and he likes him as a player and potentially what he's about. So would make a fair bit of sense. But I think just finally, I think what's encouraging for me, and you're seeing it drip fed in various reports. I think it was Luke Edwards in the Telegraph today, sort of saying that Everton are under no pressure to sell Calvert-Lewin in terms of a financial point of view. It seems, Les, and listen, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but going into this summer, expectations in terms of players going out, players coming in were rock bottom for me. But perhaps might not be as bad as we first thought if Everton are in a strong position to turn down offers for players like Calvert-Lewin and Branthwaite, and potentially go out and pay some money to get this lad in from Marseille as well.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I think we were all sort of expecting we would have sold. I mean, I know there's 6 days left until that June 30th deadline, so anything could happen in that time. But it looks like the club are being steadfast over Branthwaite, despite like the client journalists all saying like, why on Everton accepting this low ball offer from Man United? It's like, all right, it's great that the club are in a position where they can just say, no, look, this is the asking price. If you're not going to meet it, leg it. Because I honestly thought he would have gone by now. So it is great that the club's in that position, and it's sort of, as you say, you don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but you can start looking forward to next season a bit now.
Are we in that position, though, Les? Are we
What's
in
that?
that position? Are we in that position where you can just say, no, you can't have them?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Well, it seems so ambiguous to me what we have to have done and what we need to be. I mean, and that's led to many discussions that I've had with friends and various Blues saying, oh, do you know what? Getting rid of Branthwaite will be, and getting the money in for him to pay for the PSR stuff. I'd rather he stayed and we just go into the season with 3, 4, 5 points down the drain. I mean, that sounds ridiculous in my mind, but I could see why people might well say that, because you've got one of the best talented centre backs in the league.
Well,
do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah, I can definitely see that point of view, because he was part of a defence that kept 13 clean sheets last season, which essentially kept us up as much as anything did, didn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, I can see why people would say that, and I kind of agree with it to an extent. But if the club is in a position where they won't be bullied by Man United, when was the last time that happened? It's just good, isn't it? And yeah, I don't know. It's not, as I said, there's nothing concrete, is there? There's nothing that's come out and said Everton are definitely in this position. But all the signs are that like things are looking a bit better. I just find it a bit rum as well that like people are now moaning about Everton finding these little loopholes, and Villa as well. I mean, Villa's the one that makes a mockery of the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They finished fourth. They're in a position to kick on, and they've got to sell players. That's not right at all. But yeah, I mean, people moaning about us finding loopholes when Man United themselves are trying to exploit a loophole to get a good player on the cheap before the June 30th deadline. And this is what annoys me, that we're getting like a transfer window within the transfer window now.
Yeah.
There's a cut off on June 30th where you might be able to get a player on the cheap. It's just not what we're in it for, is it?
No.
And it's just dull.
I suppose and I was speaking positively there, but like, I suppose in reality, we don't know. We won't know, will we, until that deadline's passed? Like, yeah. I suppose at this point it could all be posturing, couldn't it? Like, no one really knows. Whereas Everton, like, I'm not saying they are, but Everton secretly might be thinking, like, God, we've got 6 days here to flog someone to get us above this threshold, but they might just be holding the nerve and briefing in that way. Like it's all smoke and mirrors to a degree, isn't it? Until that deadline passes, and then we can say, right, are all the lads we want to be here still here?
If nothing else, they've got a better poker face than they have had in recent years. So that's something.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll wrap it up there, lads. Anyway, we'll be back later in the week to go through, no doubt, more transfer news. Dave is doing some weekly this week. I'll have weekly for you later in the week. We'll also have a Tim Irabunum special that's going to be out a little bit later on today with Sam Tighe, who is all across all things Aston Villa. If you watch us on YouTube, do subscribe, do leave us a comment on what you think about any of those players, be it Calvert-Lewin, Harrison, or Ndiaye. And if you listen to us, do leave us a rating, do leave us a review as well. All these things help as we continue to try and grow ahead of the new season. But that has been Blue Monday. Up to the Toffees. We'll catch you again soon.